So today, we're gonna talk about knee wraps. Knee wraps are used by a lot of lifters for squatting. In equipped lifting, they're used in conjunction with a squat suit. Equipped lifting is what I've been doing lately. As such, I've been getting more and more questions about equipped. I think knee wraps is a good entry point. You can pick some up. These are the SBD training wraps, and they can be a cool training tool to try out. It's kind of like a slingshot for your squat. They're a lot of fun, and maybe you get into equipped lifting. It came to my attention that we haven't talked about how to wrap knees since 2016, when we had phenomenal lifter Adam Ramsey do a great job of explaining how to wrap knees. However, YouTube, who knows where that video is anymore? YouTube doesn't. I do, actually, it's on our channel, I just found it. But what I'm gonna do today is walk through how I wrap my knees. It's very similar to how Adam did it. There's a couple of key differences. Let's just get into it. The first thing we wanna do when we're wrapping a knee is make the knee skinny. We're gonna do that by pointing the toe up. It's gonna pull your calf down out of the way in the back, and you're gonna flex your quad. So we don't have all this meat down here. Whoop. Gets a little sucked up. When we're placing our first wrap, I like to roll the wrap, but I don't pull it tight. So when I'm rolling a wrap up, I'm not trying to stretch it with every pull. I just roll it so I can keep it in a nice, neat little pile as I wrap it. Some lifters will like to what's called pre-stretch it. You've maybe even seen somebody use a wrap roller, which is a device you wedge one end into, you step on it, you reef on it, and then you crank this little thing to wrap it up super, super tight. I don't do that. What I do is I stretch it as I apply it. So your first wrap, once you got your knee skinny, feel and just find your patellar tendon. I think the easiest way to do it is to just center it right on your tendon. Boom. Now, we don't want to be too far over here because this first wrap's probably not going to contribute too much. It's not gonna be super tight. So I like to go just to the left of the tendon and start with the tendon. The other thing we wanna try to make sure we're doing is stretching as we go. Now, we want this wrap as tight as possible at all times. We don't wanna be laying it down and then reefing on it. I've had wraps like that, and if you lay the wrap and then stretch it, you're gonna have cuts all over your leg and it's gonna feel so bad. Keep the wrap tight. That's why I like to keep it balled up like this. And that's also why I like to keep it close to the leg. If you're way out here, you have a lot of wrap to stretch. If you keep it pretty close, you got 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, 12 inches, whatever the hell that is. And you're keeping it pulled to pretty much its capacity. So I've got 1 revolution on there. What I think is ideal with most wraps for, I guess, a lifter with my knee size is to try to go for 4 wraps that are just kind of piled on top of each other. And you'll notice I'm covering about half a wrap per revolution. Each time I lay a new wrap, I'm aiming to cover about half of the previous layer. So again, keeping it tight at all times. Boom, there's 4, right? The next part of the pattern is an X. So coming from the top at the back, down across the kneecap, then coming around the back at the bottom, keeping it tight, come up across the kneecap. That's your X. Now this final wrap is gonna be a little lower than the top, but you're gonna hold it in the middle here, and we're gonna tie it off. So we're gonna keep this holding a little bit of slack. Now I didn't wrap this as tight as I normally do. So this might be a little awkward, but basically you're gonna keep this last wrap up a little bit and tuck the end of the wrap in underneath. Now this is where Adam would say, as long as it's all tucked under there, it's not gonna blow. I like to actually make sure that this end of the wrap is pulled up through at least a little bit, right? I wanna see some of this wrap coming through. Now, normally if I'm able to pay full attention and do a bit better wrap, this is gonna tie in right in the front nice and neatly. But obviously I was undoing, rewrapping, explaining stuff, so it's a little shy. The other thing with wraps, you're gonna see and hear people talking about how much percent they give on a wrap, right? This is a 60% wrap. This is a 90% wrap, 100% wrap. Once you get good at wrapping, you'll be able to maybe do a few less revolutions for, say, a warm-up squat. If I'm gonna take my first warm-up at 270 and I'm going up to 340 or 350 for the day, I don't wanna do 5 100% wraps. So when I do a lighter wrap, I might just get the X and then tie off on the second part of the X. I might get 4 and then 1 across and tie it off there because it's 270 and I'm not gonna squat it very far. If you are a lifter who's utilizing these as a raw tool, there is some value to that. I think there's certainly some novelty and probably a lot of fun to be had playing with knee wraps. I think it can be a bit of a good training tool for some technical feedback. I remember the first time I tried wraps, it was in a competition. It was for 3rd attempt. Some of my training partners were like, it'll be awesome. I know you've never used wraps before, but put 10 kilos more than you were planning to take for your 3rd attempt on there. We'll wrap your knees and you'll go smoke it. So I had my knee wraps on. I hit the bottom of the squat and my knees straightened super fast. Unfortunately, my trunk and the bar didn't go with my knees straightening, so I just ditched it forwards and I obviously didn't get that rep. But I think using knee wraps is a great way to put a little more priority on hip and back strength because it's gonna give you that assistance in straightening your knee. So if you want to use it as a training tool to try to develop your hip and back strength, to develop your ability to stay upright, to get some overload training, I think it can be really useful. I've been using the SBD training wraps. I have the competition wraps here. Regardless what wraps you use, what company you like to use, they're gonna have differing and varying thicknesses and tensions of wrap. You can see this one's way harder to stretch, whereas this one, right? A lot more give to it. The way SBD's categorized it is training, competition. Can also be just preference. Don't be afraid if the first time you use a pair of wraps, they kind of feel like cardboard or they feel way too hard. Some wraps need to kind of break in a little bit and then they get to that sweet spot. Don't be afraid if you can't get that many revolutions the first time you try it. It is, like anything, a bit of a skill and you will improve the more you do it. Let me know if you have any questions about knee wrapping. I think they're a pretty damn cool tool and I've been loving equipped lifting again. So that's how I wrap my knees. Hope it helps.